The bank was chaos. Alarms blared, people screamed, and four masked gunmen stormed through the front doors shouting for cash. One fired a warning shot into the ceiling as customers hit the floor. Behind a row of chairs, a woman in a gray jacket crouched, hands steady, eyes locked on every move. When a gunman grabbed her arm, everything changed. In less than 5 seconds, he was on the floor, disarmed and gasping for air. The others turned, confused, but she was already moving, smooth, surgical, silent. No one knew what they had just witnessed. No one knew who she really was. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories of hidden strength and quiet heroes, consider subscribing for more. The Pierce County Bank in Tacoma operated on predictable rhythms. Teller windows opened precisely at 9. The security guard completed his first walkthrough by 9:15. The morning rush of customers ebbed by 10:30. And at exactly 11:42 every Thursday, the woman in the gray jacket arrived to make her weekly deposit. She stood 5'7", with dark hair pulled back in a practical knot at the base of her neck. Nothing about her appearance demanded attention, not the sensible boots, the minimal makeup, or the absence of jewelry. She was, by all outward measures, forgettable, which was exactly how Avery Thorne preferred it. Avery approached the entrance with measured steps, scanning the parking lot with a quick sweep of her eyes before pulling open the heavy glass door. Inside, she paused briefly, vision adjusting to the fluorescent lighting as she took in the positions of each security camera, each exit sign, each person waiting in line. Old habits. The security guard, Dominic, nodded as she passed. "Morning, ma'am." His eyes lingered a moment longer than usual. Something in his expression suggested a question forming. Avery returned the nod with practiced politeness. Not too warm, not too cold, the perfect temperature of unremarkable. She took her place in line, standing precisely equidistant from the customer ahead and the velvet rope marking the queue's boundary. On the wall-mounted television, a news anchor reported on a string of bank robberies across Washington state. 4 masked men hitting small banks, taking cash, and disappearing before police arrived. 3 banks in 3 weeks. The anchor called it a spree. "Ms. Thorne," said the teller as Avery reached the counter. Eliana was young, perpetually cheerful, with bright eyes and a wide smile. "Thursday deposit as usual?" "Yes, thank you," Avery replied, sliding her checks across the counter, along with a deposit slip filled out in neat, precise handwriting. "Always so punctual," Eliana said, processing the transaction. "Like clockwork. I bet your friends can set their watches by you." Avery offered a small smile that acknowledged the comment without inviting further conversation. Eliana meant well, but personal questions were obstacles to be navigated. "Just here for my weekly deposit. Nothing exciting." As Eliana completed the transaction, Avery felt eyes on her back. Turning slightly, she caught Dominic staring again, whispering to his colleague, "I swear I've seen her somewhere before." The words pricked at the back of Avery's neck. Recognition was dangerous. Recognition meant questions. Questions led to attention. And attention was the enemy of invisibility. Her fingers tightened imperceptibly around her receipt as she turned to leave. That was when the front doors burst open and everything changed. 4 men wearing ski masks rushed in, brandishing handguns. The tallest one, clearly the leader, fired a shot into the ceiling. Plaster dust rained down as the sound reverberated through the lobby. Screams erupted. A child began to cry. "Everybody down! Now!" The leader's voice boomed through the space. "This is a robbery! Move to the center of the room!" People dropped to the floor, hands raised. An elderly woman with a walker struggled to comply, panic in her rheumy eyes. The second robber kicked open the gate to the teller area, dragging the manager by his collar. "Open the vault!" he demanded. "You've got 2 minutes before I start shooting customers." Avery remained behind a row of chairs, perfectly still. Her breathing slowed deliberately. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Her mind cataloged relevant data. 4 assailants, 3 visible weapons. Approximately 20 civilians in the building. 2 security cameras covering the main floor. Dominic was unarmed, bank policy. The leader, Rennick, according to the patch half hidden on his jacket, was scanning the room. His gaze stopped when he reached Avery, still crouching, but not prone like the others. Not panicking. "You, on your knees now," he shouted, turning his weapon toward her. Avery remained still, watching as the elderly woman continued struggling to lower herself to the ground. The woman's breathing was becoming labored, her face pale with fear. "I said now!" Rennick advanced toward Avery, grabbing her arm roughly. The sudden movement caused her sleeve to ride up, revealing a small tattoo on her inner wrist. A trident, simple but unmistakable to those who knew its significance. Rennick's eyes widened behind his mask. "Wait, I know what that tattoo—" He never finished the sentence. Avery moved, her right hand locked around his wrist, twisting sharply as her left palm drove upward into his elbow joint. The weapon clattered to the floor as Rennick gasped in pain. In one fluid motion, she swept his legs and drove him face down, one knee precisely positioned between his shoulder blades. The second robber turned, confusion evident even behind his mask. "What the—" Avery was already moving. She crossed the distance in 3 steps, using a startled customer as concealment until the last possible moment. Her first strike targeted the brachial plexus, temporarily numbing his arm. The second was a precision blow to the solar plexus that left him gasping for air. The gun fell from nerveless fingers as he doubled over. The third and fourth men realized something was wrong simultaneously. They turned their weapons toward Avery, but they were already too late. She moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible, closing the gap and disarming the third man with a joint lock that left him on his knees. The fourth backed away, firing wildly. Customers screamed as bullets embedded in the wall. Avery seized a metal trash can and hurled it with perfect accuracy. It struck the gunman's hand, causing his next shot to go wide. Before he could recover, she was on him, disarming him with a technique taught nowhere in civilian self-defense classes. In less than 30 seconds, all 4 robbers were subdued. The bank manager had escaped during the chaos and triggered the silent alarm. Avery used zip ties from her pocket to secure the assailant's wrists. An odd thing for an ordinary bank customer to carry. She checked the elderly woman first, ensuring she was unharmed before helping her to a chair. Only then did Avery become aware of the absolute silence that had fallen over the bank. Every eye was fixed on her, expressions ranging from shock to awe to suspicion. The silence was broken by approaching sirens. Detective Javier Caldwell arrived with the first wave of officers. He was tall and solid, with the weary eyes of someone who had seen too much but kept showing up anyway. He directed the uniformed officers to secure the scene and separate witnesses for statements. His attention quickly focused on Avery, sitting calmly on a bench while others around her still trembled with adrenaline and fear. "I'm Detective Caldwell," he said, taking the seat beside her. "Mind telling me how one woman managed to take down 4 armed men without a scratch?" Avery met his gaze directly. "Self-defense classes." "Self-defense classes," he repeated, his tone flat with disbelief. "Must have been some classes." They were thorough. Caldwell studied her for a long moment. "You have ID?" She produced her wallet, containing a Washington driver's license issued 3 years earlier. Avery Thorne. Address in a modest apartment complex in North Tacoma. No criminal record when he ran it through the system. "Mind walking me through what happened?" he asked, notepad ready. "Not much to tell," Avery replied. "I was making my weekly deposit when they came in. The leader grabbed me when I tried to help an elderly woman. Training kicked in." "Training?" Caldwell echoed. He gestured toward one of the subdued robbers, now being treated by paramedics for a dislocated shoulder. "That's not self-defense. Those are military takedown techniques, special forces level." Avery's expression remained neutral. "I'm just a customer who was in the right place at the right time. A customer who happens to carry zip ties? I work in shipping and receiving, always have some in my pockets." Caldwell clearly wasn't satisfied, but with no grounds to hold her, and multiple witnesses confirming she had acted to protect others, he eventually relented. "We'll need a formal statement, and I'd appreciate if you stay local while this investigation is active." "Of course," Avery agreed. "Can I go now? I have work this afternoon." "Sure," he said, handing her his card. "But I have a feeling we'll be talking again soon." As Avery left the police station, Caldwell's phone rang. The caller ID showed the station house. "Caldwell." "Sir, you need to see this security footage," said the desk sergeant. "And there's someone from Naval Intelligence here asking about the woman." The next morning, Avery's alarm chimed at precisely 5:30, as it did every day. She completed her usual routine of stretching, a 3-mile run, and 20 minutes of strength training. The television remained off. The shower lasted exactly 4 minutes, water as hot as she could stand. It was only as she was dressing that she heard her neighbor's television through the thin apartment walls. The familiar voice of the morning news anchor caught her attention. Our top story this morning: an attempted bank robbery foiled by a single customer. Security footage from Pierce County Bank shows the moment when 4 armed men were subdued by what experts are calling specialized military combat techniques. Avery froze. Her agreement with Detective Caldwell had included keeping her identity confidential. A wave of cold certainty washed over her as she pressed her ear to the wall, listening to the continuing report. Sources close to the investigation have identified the woman as having possible connections to naval special warfare. The headline spreading across social media puts it simply: armed men stormed a bank, screaming for cash, then learned why you never mess with a Navy SEAL. The phone rang, the landline she kept precisely because it was untraceable to her real identity. Only one person had this number. "Thorne," she answered, her voice tight. "This is Damage Control." Commander Lowell Blackwood's voice was formal, clipped. "Your existence has been officially denied. Protocol Midnight. You're on your own." The line went dead. Protocol Midnight. The contingency they had trained for but hoped would never come. Complete disavowal. All support withdrawn. Former identities erased from official records. Avery moved with practiced efficiency. From beneath her bed, she retrieved a locked case containing document destruction equipment, passport, birth certificate, service records, all fed into the miniature shredder. The remnants went into a solution that reduced them to pulp. Next, she swept the apartment for surveillance. The bug was expertly placed behind a vent in the bedroom. Recent work. Within the last 12 hours. Already they were watching. As she packed a small go bag with essentials, her encrypted phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Not just you. 3 others already found. Meridian is hunting Silent Tide." Avery stopped cold, memories rushing back like a tide breaking through a damaged seawall. Night training exercises off the coast of Virginia. 12 women in tactical gear, faces barely visible in the darkness. The distinctive cadence count that marked their unit. Documents stamped with Silent Tide and classified in bold red letters. The commanding officer's voice, clear as if she stood in the room now: "Ladies, you don't exist. Your mission doesn't exist. If you're compromised, you're on your own. 3 already found." Which 3? Nomad with her uncanny tracking abilities? Cypher, who could crack any system? Dagger, whose knife work was unmatched? Or perhaps Vortex, the demolitions expert who could make an explosion look like an accident? The mission that had gone wrong, the betrayal from within their own chain of command. The evidence they'd gathered split into 12 parts for security. The scattered operators, each holding a piece of truth too dangerous to assemble. Avery moved to the window, carefully parting the blinds a fraction of an inch. A black SUV with tinted windows was parked across the street. 2 men in suits trying too hard to look casual, military posture, government. At the corner, a commercial van with a cable company logo that didn't quite match the font used by the actual company. Private contractors, probably Meridian Defense, the security consulting firm run by retired Admiral Warwick Thorne. The noose was tightening. "They're eliminating the whole team," Avery whispered to the empty room, the full impact of the situation becoming clear. The bank robbery hadn't been random. It had been orchestrated to force her to reveal her training, to confirm her identity, to flush her out, and she had walked right into it. Time to disappear again. But this time, running wasn't enough. Someone was hunting the women of Silent Tide, one by one, hunting them for what they knew, for what they had seen, for the evidence they carried. This time, invisibility wasn't just about survival. It was about justice. Have you ever encountered someone who seemed completely ordinary until a crisis revealed their extraordinary abilities? Share your unexpected hero stories in the comments and subscribe for part 2, where we discover why someone is hunting down the women of Silent Tide. Avery moved through the shadows of the parking garage with practiced efficiency. The backpack containing her emergency supplies hung close to her body, minimizing sound and profile. 5 stories above her abandoned apartment, She kept to blind spots in the security camera coverage, habits ingrained through years of training. 3 vehicles had followed her from her apartment complex. 2 she had identified immediately, government issue. The third, a commercial van with mismatched insignia, confirmed her worst fears. Meridian Defense, the private military contractor founded by her father, was hunting her. She had lost the government tail 2 blocks back with a simple misdirection through a department store. The Meridian team had proven more persistent, but a quick dash through a service corridor and an employee exit had given her the breathing room she needed. Now she needed transportation. She selected a nondescript sedan, at least 10 years old. The older the vehicle, the fewer electronic systems to track. The steering column yielded to techniques she had learned not in SEAL training, but from a grizzled petty officer on a mission in Caracas. The engine turned over on the first try. 30 minutes later, she was on Interstate 5 heading south, moving with traffic, attracting no attention. Just another commuter heading home after a long day. She allowed herself one glance in the rearview mirror at the skyline of Tacoma receding behind her. 3 years of careful anonymity destroyed in 30 seconds of security footage. The storage unit facility in Olympia had no cameras, no digital locks, and an owner who accepted cash with no questions. Avery had rented the unit 3 years ago on her arrival in Washington, paying 5 years in advance. Insurance against exactly this type of situation. She killed the engine 2 blocks from the facility and approached on foot, circling the perimeter twice to check for surveillance before approaching her unit. The padlock appeared untampered with, but she checked for signs of professional entry anyway. Finding none, she unlocked it and slipped inside. The bare concrete room contained a metal cabinet, a sleeping bag, and a plastic tote. From the cabinet, she retrieved a go bag containing $10,000 in cash, 3 sets of identification documents, and a prepaid phone. The tote held clothing, non-perishable food, and basic medical supplies. In a hidden compartment in the cabinet floor, secured by a biometric lock keyed to her fingerprint, she found her contingency weapon, a Sig Sauer P226, standard issue for Navy SEALs, with 3 magazines of ammunition. She checked the weapon with practiced movements, muscle memory taking over. In her mind, she could hear Commander Riker's voice from training. Your primary weapon is your mind. Your secondary is your body. The gun is just insurance. As she repacked her supplies, the prepaid phone she had retrieved buzzed with an incoming call. No number displayed. Few people knew this number existed. Fewer still knew to call it now. Verify, Avery answered, using the protocol established years ago. Trident falls, tide rises, came the response. A woman's voice, low and controlled. Zephyr, one of the 12. Avery felt a momentary relief that at least one more had survived. Location compromised, Avery said, reverting to the clipped communication style of their operational days. Aware. Rendezvous point Charlie. 2 hours. The line went dead. Rendezvous point Charlie. The contingency meet location they had established on the Oregon coast. 4 hours drive in good. Traffic. Avery would need to move quickly. She was loading the car when she felt it, the slight shift in air pressure that indicated she was no longer alone. Her hand moved toward the weapon at the small of her back. I wouldn't, said a woman's voice behind her. Not Zephyr, someone else. Avery turned slowly to face a woman in her early 30s, South Asian features, sharp, intelligent eyes, and a press credential hanging around her neck. She held no weapon, but her stance suggested she knew Avery was dangerous. Winslow Core, the woman said. Investigative journalist. We need to talk about Silent Tide. Across town, Detective Caldwell stood in his precinct's video review room, watching the security footage from Pierce County Bank for the 7th time. He paused the playback at the moment Avery took down the first gunman. That's a Muay Thai clinch transitioning to a joint lock taught in naval special warfare, said the woman beside him. Lieutenant Commander Iris Hargrove from Naval Intelligence wore civilian clothes but carried herself with military precision. Not something you pick up in a community center self-defense class. So she's military, Caldwell said. Why all the secrecy? Why was her apartment cleaned out less than an hour after the story broke? Hargrove's expression remained professionally neutral. I'm not at liberty to discuss the specifics of Ms. Thorne's service record. Because there isn't one, Caldwell countered. I checked. According to every database, Avery Thorne never served in any branch of the military. Detective, I appreciate your diligence, but this matter now falls under federal jurisdiction. 4 armed robbery suspects in my custody disagree, Caldwell said. This is still my case until someone with more stars on their collar tells me otherwise. Before Hargrove could respond, Caldwell's phone buzzed. The caller ID showed a Seattle area code. Caldwell, he answered. Detective, this is Eliana Diaz from Pierce County Bank. The young teller's voice was tight with tension. You said to call if anything strange happened related to yesterday's robbery. Go ahead. A woman was just here asking questions about Ms. Thorne, the customer who stopped the robbery. She had press credentials, but something felt off. When I asked which outlet she worked for, she avoided the question. Description? South Asian, early 30s. Press badge said W. Kaur. She was particularly interested in whether Ms. Thorne had a safe deposit box with us. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. Did she now? Thanks, Eliana. Stay safe. He ended the call and turned to Hargrove. Looks like we're not the only ones interested in your non-existent seal. Her name is Winslow Kaur, Hargrove said, resignation in her voice. Freelance journalist known for chasing classified military stories, particular interest in special operations. And why would a journalist care about a bank customer with good reflexes? Hargrove checked her watch. That's above your clearance, detective. If you'll excuse me, I need to make a call. As she exited the room, Caldwell turned back to the frozen image on the screen. In the frame, Avery Thorne's sleeve had ridden up, revealing a small tattoo on her inner wrist. He zoomed in, enhancing the image. A trident. The emblem of the Navy SEALs. Who the hell are you really? He muttered to the image. I don't know what you're talking about, Avery told the journalist, maintaining a calm exterior while calculating escape routes. Winslow Kaur gave her a look of pure skepticism. 3 years ago, you appeared in Tacoma with a perfect identity, but no digital footprint before 2022. Your apartment is now empty. You're loading a car that isn't registered to you, and yesterday you took down 4 armed men using combat techniques exclusive to Tier 1 operators. I've been tracking Silent Tide for 2 years, Ms. Thorne, or whatever your real name is. The name Silent Tide sent a chill through Avery's spine, but she kept her face neutral. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. Nomad was found dead in Seattle 3 weeks ago, rock climbing accident. Except she was afraid of heights. Dagger in Portland, carbon monoxide poisoning in her garage. Vortex in Olympia, car crash on a road she'd driven hundreds of times. Kaur's voice grew tight. All ruled accidental deaths, all former members of a program that officially never existed. Avery remained silent, but her mind was racing. The text message had been right. 3 operators already eliminated, and now Kaur had just confirmed exactly which ones. I'm not your enemy, Kaur continued. My sister Annika was recruited for a special program in 2018. 9 months later, I was told she never served. Her records were erased. 2 years of her life, gone. She pulled out a photo from her pocket. This was the last picture she sent me. The image showed a group of women in civilian clothes on a beach, faces partially obscured by sunglasses and hats. Operational security, even in personal photos. Avery recognized them immediately. Third from the left, Annika Kaur. Codename Cypher. I don't know these people, Avery lied, handing the photo back. The bank robbery wasn't random, Kaur pressed on. It was a setup to expose you. The same crew hit 3 other banks in locations where former Silent Tide operators were living. Each time, they created situations designed to force intervention. This was new information. Avery reassessed the journalist, recognizing the investigative skill required to make these connections. Why are you telling me this? Because someone is systematically eliminating everyone associated with Silent Tide, and I want to know why my sister had to die. Kaur's composure cracked momentarily. And because you're next. Before Avery could respond, her instincts flared. A vehicle approaching too slowly for the residential area. The distinct sound of tactical boots on gravel. They'd been found. Down, Avery commanded, tackling Kaur to the ground as the first tranquilizer dart embedded itself in the car door where she had been standing. In one fluid motion, Avery drew her weapon and fired twice toward the source of the dart. Not to hit, but to force the attackers to cover. She grabbed Kaur by the collar and dragged her behind the concrete barrier separating storage units. Stay here, she ordered, slipping off her jacket and placing it beside Kaur. When I move, count to 20, then run north through the unit row. Don't look back." "What are you going to do?" Core asked, eyes wide. "Create a diversion." Avery moved with controlled speed to the end of the concrete wall, listening for positions. 3 operators minimum, moving in standard tactical formation. Professional hunters. She removed a small mirror from her pocket and used it to check angles. 2 visible, covering the main exit. At least 1 more in flanking position. With practiced efficiency, she unscrewed the light bulb from the nearest security lamp and smashed it against the wall, creating improvised caltrops of broken glass across the exit path. Then she took a deep breath and moved. The first attacker never saw her coming. A precision strike to the brachial plexus temporarily paralyzed his arm. A sweep took his legs. His tranquilizer gun skittered across the pavement. The second fired, the dart missing by inches as Avery used the first attacker's body as a shield. She closed the distance in 3 steps, disarming him with a joint lock that left him gasping in pain. The third attacker was better positioned. His dart caught Avery in the shoulder as she turned. She felt the immediate burning sensation of the sedative entering her system. Training kicked in. Increased heart rate would speed the drug's effect. Control breathing. Focus. With fading coordination, she managed to disarm the third attacker with a move that left him unconscious beside his companions. The world was beginning to blur at the edges. She needed to move, to reach the rendezvous with Zephyr, to warn her about the systematic elimination of their team. Avery staggered to the car, forcing herself to focus through the encroaching chemical fog. The key fumbled in her fingers as she tried to insert it into the ignition. The last thing she saw before consciousness faded was a figure approaching the driver's side window, not one of the tactical team. A woman with familiar features and the distinctive movement patterns of someone trained in the same program. "Hang on, Tide," Zephyr's voice seemed to come from very far away. "I've got you." When Avery regained consciousness, she was in the passenger seat of a moving vehicle. Her mouth felt like cotton, her vision still slightly blurred from the tranquilizer. Military grade, designed to incapacitate quickly, but wear off within an hour. "Welcome back," said the driver. Zephyr Renner had changed in the 3 years since Avery had last seen her. Her blonde hair was now dark brown, cut short in a practical style. A new scar ran along her jawline, but her eyes remained the same, alert, intense, missing nothing. "The journalist?" Avery asked, her voice rough. "Following in another vehicle," she insisted. Zephyr glanced in the rearview mirror. "She's been tracking the pattern of eliminations. Her research is actually impressive. How did you find me?" "When the bank footage hit the news, I knew they'd be coming for you next. I was already heading to Tacoma when I picked up chatter about a storage facility in Olympia. Meridian tactical frequencies aren't as secure as they think." Avery's mind was clearing now. Nomad, Dagger, Vortex. All made to look like accidents, Zephyr confirmed grimly. Professional work, but I found trace evidence of tampering at each scene. "Why now? We've been scattered for 3 years." "Because of this." Zephyr handed Avery a folded newspaper. The headline read, "Senate Investigation into Black Budget Programs. Expands." "They're cleaning house," Avery realized. "Eliminating loose ends before the investigation reaches silent tide." "Exactly. The bank robberies were engineered to flush us out, force us to use our training in public where we could be identified." Avery's tactical mind began assembling the pieces. "The journalist's sister, Cypher, she was our communications specialist. And the one who encrypted the evidence we gathered against the weapons sale operation." Zephyr kept her eyes on the road, constantly checking mirrors for pursuit. "Each of us has a piece of the encryption key. As long as we're scattered and in hiding, the evidence stays buried. Which means they need to eliminate all of us to be sure." Avery checked the weapon at her waist, confirming it was still loaded. "Where are we headed?" "Oregon coast. I've got a safe house near Newport." Zephyr's expression hardened. "We need to find Pharos. She's the only one who can bring this all together." "Commander Riker," Avery said the name with a mix of respect and apprehension. Octavia Riker had been their commanding officer, the architect of Silent Tide. Codename, Pharos, the lighthouse, their guide in darkness. "Last I heard, she went completely off-grid after the program was shut down." "She did, but she left breadcrumbs only we would recognize." Zephyr tapped the steering wheel with her index finger. a nervous habit from their training days. The question is whether we can reach her before Meridian does. In the back seat, Avery's go bag emitted a muffled buzzing sound, her encrypted phone. She retrieved it, noting the scrambled number on the display. "Verify," she answered. "Ms. Thorne." Detective Caldwell's voice was unmistakable. "Or whatever your name actually is. We need to talk." "How did you get this number?" Avery kept her voice neutral, despite her surprise. "Let's just say Lieutenant Commander Hargrove from Naval Intelligence isn't as careful with her contacts list as she should be. I'm trying to understand why a bank robbery has brought federal agents swarming into my jurisdiction, and why the woman who stopped it has vanished." Avery exchanged a look with Zephyr, who nodded slightly. "Potential ally." "It's complicated, Detective." "I'm a patient man," he replied, "but my patience is wearing thin. 3 federal agencies have taken over my investigation, classified the security footage, and are telling me to forget what I saw. So, I'll ask again. Who are you, really? Someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time." "Bull." His frustration was evident. "The bank manager mentioned something interesting after you left. Said one of the robbers recognized a tattoo on your wrist. Called it a trident. Now, I'm no military expert, but even I know what that symbol represents." Avery remained silent, calculating risks. "Here's what's going to happen," Caldwell continued. "You're going to meet me and explain what's going on, or I start asking very public questions about why someone with SEAL training is being erased from existence. That would be unwise, Detective. So is leaving me in the dark when I'm trying to help. The bank teller, Eliana, has been asking about you. Seems concerned. And now she's being followed by men in suits who think they're being subtle." Avery felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. "When did this start?" "This morning, after that journalist came asking questions." "Listen carefully, Detective. Eliana is in danger. So are you if you keep digging. The best thing you can do right now is forget you ever saw me." "Not my style," Caldwell replied. "I'm a cop. I don't abandon innocent people who might be in trouble." Avery made a decision. "There's a coffee shop 3 blocks from the precinct, the one with the blue awning. Be there at 4. Come alone. If I see anyone with you, I'm gone." She ended the call and turned to Zephyr. "We need to make a detour." "You trust a cop?" Zephyr asked, skepticism heavy in her voice. "No, but I trust that he'll keep digging until he either finds answers or gets himself killed. And I don't want another civilian casualty on my conscience." Zephyr nodded reluctantly and changed lanes, taking the next exit toward Tacoma. In the car behind them, Winslow Core followed, her mind racing. After 2 years of investigation, she was finally closing in on the truth about her sister's mysterious service and death. The woman she had confronted, Avery Thorne, was clearly former military, despite all records indicating otherwise. And the second woman, who had appeared seemingly out of nowhere to rescue Thorne from the tactical team, moved with the same disciplined precision. Silent Tide. The classified program that had recruited her sister Annika then erased all evidence of her service. 12 women selected for their exceptional abilities and psychological profiles. Trained for missions too sensitive for conventional teams. A program that officially never existed. Winslow had accumulated fragments over years of investigation. Redacted documents obtained through Freedom of Information requests. Whispered rumors from sources within the special operations community. Patterns of deployments that didn't match official records. And then, the deaths. 3 women with no official military background, dying in suspicious accidents in Washington state within 6 weeks. She followed Thorne's vehicle into Tacoma, maintaining a discreet distance. Whatever Thorne and her companion were planning, Winslow intended to be there, for Annika, for the truth, for justice. The coffee shop with the blue awning was busy with afternoon customers. Detective Caldwell sat at a corner table, positioned to see both the front entrance and the emergency exit. His jacket was unbuttoned, allowing easy access to his service weapon if needed. 3 years in homicide had taught him to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. At exactly 4 o'clock, a woman in a baseball cap and sunglasses took the seat across from him. Not Thorne. Different build, different movement pattern. "Detective Caldwell," she said without preamble. "I'm an associate of Ms. Thorne." "This isn't what we agreed to," Caldwell responded, making no move to leave, but tensing slightly. "Plans change when surveillance increases," the woman said calmly. "You're being watched. 3 men, business casual attire, government-issue sidearms, poorly concealed. One at the counter ordering a complicated drink to justify his extended presence. One outside pretending to take a call. One in the silver sedan across the street." Caldwell resisted the urge to look. "And you are?" "Someone who understands the situation better than you do." She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. "This is what you need to know. Memorize it, then destroy it. And detective, the bank teller, Eliana Diaz, needs protection. If you truly want to help, start there." Before Caldwell could respond, the woman stood and walked calmly toward the restrooms. By the time he checked 30 seconds later, she was gone, presumably through the window he found unlocked. The note contained 3 lines. "Silent Tide, 2018 to 2022. Classified Naval Intelligence Program. Evidence of illegal weapon sales by Admiral Warwick Thorne, Star Meridian Defense. Bank robbery orchestrated to identify former operators for elimination." Caldwell committed the information to memory, then destroyed the note as instructed. As he left the coffee shop, he noticed the silver sedan pulling away from the curb to follow him. His mind was racing with implications. If even half of what the note suggested was true, Thorne was caught in something far beyond a simple bank robbery. He called the precinct as he walked. "This is Caldwell. I need a patrol unit sent to check on Eliana Diaz from Pierce County Bank. Possible threat situation." The dispatcher acknowledged the request as Caldwell reached his car. Before he could open the door, his phone rang again. The precinct. "Caldwell," he answered. "Detective?" The desk sergeant's voice was tight with tension. "There's a situation at Pierce County Bank. Armed men in tactical gear entered 5 minutes ago. Reports of shots fired. All units responding." Caldwell felt his blood run cold. "Hostages?" "Confirmed, including bank employees." "Eliana?" He had been too late. Across town, Avery, Zephyr, and Winslow watched the breaking news report on a motel television. The footage showed Pierce County Bank surrounded by police vehicles, tactical teams in position. The reporter's voice was tense with controlled urgency. "We're receiving reports that armed individuals have taken control of Pierce County Bank in downtown Tacoma. Police have confirmed multiple hostages inside, including bank employees. The suspects are described as wearing tactical gear with insignia matching the private security firm Meridian Defense." The camera zoomed in on one of the hostage takers, visible through the bank windows. Even with the tactical gear obscuring most of his features, Avery recognized the stance and bearing immediately. Commander Vance, her father's right hand at Meridian. "It's a trap," she said quietly. "They're drawing us out." "Why the bank?" Winslow asked, her journalist's instincts searching for connections. Zephyr and Avery exchanged a knowing look. "The evidence," Zephyr said. "Each of us hid our piece of the encryption key somewhere secure." Understanding dawned on Winslow's face. "A safe deposit box." Avery nodded grimly. "After the program was shut down, we scattered the evidence for protection. Insurance against exactly this type of cleanup operation." The camera angle changed, showing a close-up of the bank's front doors, where a hostage was being displayed for the police outside. Detective Caldwell, hands bound, a bruise forming on his temple. Beside him stood Eliana, the young teller, fear evident in her wide eyes. The news anchor's voice grew more urgent. "We've just received a communication from inside the bank. The hostage takers are demanding to speak with federal authorities regarding what they're calling a matter of national security. They've specifically requested communication with the remaining members of Silent Tide." As if to punctuate the statement, Commander Vance appeared briefly in the bank's entrance, looking directly into the news cameras. His message was clear to anyone who knew how to read it. "Come get your friends." "It's obviously a trap," Zephyr stated, echoing Avery's earlier assessment. Avery's expression hardened with resolve. "Of course it is. But they've forgotten what we were trained for. Have you ever found yourself torn between walking away from danger or stepping into it to protect others? Share your thoughts on what makes someone risk everything for people they barely know, and subscribe for the conclusion of Silent Service, where we discover if Avery can save the hostages and expose the truth about Silent Tide. Night had fallen by the time Avery completed her reconnaissance of Pierce County Bank. From her position on the rooftop across the street, she had a clear view of the tactical situation. Police had established a perimeter, but were maintaining distance under orders from federal authorities who had taken command of the scene. Snipers positioned on adjacent buildings. Communications van parked at the north corner. Standard hostage protocol in effect. But this was not a standard hostage situation. Through her compact binoculars, Avery could see Meridian defense operators moving with military precision inside the bank. 8 total, all armed with modified M4 carbines and sidearms. The hostages, including Detective Caldwell and Eliana, were gathered near the center of the main floor, visible through the glass frontage. A deliberate choice. Any rescue attempt through the front would put civilians directly in the line of fire. Perimeter sweep complete. Zephyr's voice came through the encrypted comm unit in Avery's ear. 2 teams of 4, rotating coverage. External snipers on the east and south rooftops. They're expecting a tactical entry. Of course they are, Avery replied softly. That's how they do it. She shifted position, scanning the gathering of law enforcement below. Local police, FBI hostage rescue, and at least 2 individuals in civilian clothing, with the unmistakable bearing of military intelligence. One she recognized as Lieutenant Commander Hargrove, who had appeared at the precinct after the robbery. Our government friend is here, Avery noted. Hargrove from Naval Intelligence. Can she be trusted? Asked Winslow, who had insisted on being included in the operation. The journalist was positioned in a coffee shop across the street, monitoring police frequencies on a modified scanner. Unknown, Avery replied, but her presence confirms this goes beyond a simple hostage situation. The question is whether she's here to contain the situation or to clean it up. Avery shifted her focus back to the bank interior. Commander Vance was visible now, speaking into a satellite phone. His posture suggested frustration. Behind him, a younger operator was working on the bank's vault door, not trying to break in. Entering a code. They have access to the vault, Avery observed, which means this isn't about the money. It's about the evidence, Zephyr confirmed. They're after your piece of the encryption key. 3 years earlier, when Silent Tide had been abruptly shut down and its operators scattered to civilian life, each had taken precautions. The evidence they had gathered implicating Admiral Warwick Thorne in illegal weapons sales to designated terrorist organizations had been too dangerous to keep together. Commander Riker had devised an elegant solution. The files were encrypted, with the decryption key split into 12 parts. Each operator memorized their portion and hid a physical backup somewhere secure. Only by assembling all 12 could the evidence be accessed. Safe deposit box? Zephyr asked. Safety deposit box, Avery confirmed. Box 1142, but they won't find what they're looking for. Why not? Because the key isn't there. It's a decoy, insurance against exactly this scenario. Avery allowed herself a small smile. The real key is hidden elsewhere, which means we have leverage, Zephyr concluded. But first, we need to extract the hostages. Avery continued her methodical scan of the building, searching for tactical advantages. The bank's renovations 3 years ago had included new air conditioning ducts, too narrow for an adult to traverse. Roof access was likely covered by motion sensors. The loading dock at the rear would be guarded. But there was another way in, one that only someone who had been making weekly visits for 3 years would know about. Winslow, I need you to create a diversion, Avery said into her comm. Something to draw attention to the north side of the building in exactly 12 minutes. What kind of diversion? Journalist kind. You're going to demand answers about why a private military contractor is holding American citizens hostage. And while she's doing that, Zephyr asked, we're going in through the old pneumatic tube system. Before the bank's renovation, Pierce County Bank had used a pneumatic tube system for drive-through transactions. During the remodel, the exterior access had been covered with a decorative panel, but the tubes themselves remained intact, creating a small maintenance tunnel that ran beneath the main floor. As Winslow moved into position, Avery and Zephyr made their way to the bank's south wall, keeping to shadows. Years of operating in hostile territory had taught them how to move unseen even in urban environments. They reached the decorative panel that concealed the old tube system entrance without incident. Ready? Avery asked, checking her watch. Zephyr nodded, readying the small pry bar they had acquired. On the north side of the bank, right on schedule, Winslow Corps approached the police barricade with purposeful strides. She held her press credentials high, voice carrying with practiced projection. "I'm Winslow Core, independent journalist. I demand to know why Meridian Defense, a private military contractor owned by Admiral Warwick Thorne, is holding American citizens hostage on American soil. Is this a terrorist action? A military coup? The public has a right to know." Her performance was flawless, drawing the attention of not only the police but the Meridian operators inside, who moved to the north windows to assess the commotion. In that moment of distraction, Avery and Zephyr removed the decorative panel and slipped into the narrow maintenance tunnel. The space was tight, requiring them to crawl on elbows and knees. 3 minutes of careful movement brought them beneath the main floor. Through small gaps in the flooring, they could see the hostages gathered in the center of the bank lobby. Detective Caldwell sat with his back against the teller counter, hands zip-tied before him. A bruise darkened his left temple, but his eyes remained alert, constantly scanning for opportunities. Beside him, Eliana huddled with several other bank employees, fear evident in their postures. Commander Vance paced near the vault, speaking urgently into his satellite phone. "Sir, the package is not at the expected location. We've searched all safety deposit boxes registered to any known alias. It's not here." The voice that answered was familiar to Avery, even through the distortion of the speaker. Admiral Warwick Thorne, her father. "Then expand the search. It has to be there. Without that piece of the key, the entire operation is compromised." "What about the hostages, sir?" A pause. "Collateral damage if necessary. National security takes priority over civilians." "Understood, sir." The callous dismissal of innocent lives confirmed what Avery had long suspected. Her father had never been the patriot he claimed to be. His concern was power and profit, not the oath he had sworn to protect and defend. Avery and Zephyr shared a look of grim determination. 3 access points led from the maintenance tunnel to the main floor. One behind the teller counter, one near the manager's office, and one in the customer restroom. "I'll take point," Avery whispered. "Secure the hostages. You target Vance." "Copy," Zephyr replied, checking her tranquilizer gun. Unlike the Meridian team, they were not willing to risk lethal force with civilians present. Avery moved toward the access point behind the teller counter. Once in position, she activated the comm unit. "Winslow, second phase, now." Outside the bank, Winslow Core's voice rose again, this time directing her questions at Lieutenant Commander Hargrove, who had emerged from the command vehicle. "Commander Hargrove, is the Navy aware that one of its former admirals is running a private army on American soil? Is this connected to the classified Silent Tide program that the Pentagon refuses to acknowledge? Were those women abandoned by their country?" The specific questions, hitting too close to classified information, had the desired effect. Hargrove moved quickly toward Winslow, drawing additional attention from both law enforcement and the Meridian team inside. "Now," Avery whispered. In synchronized movement, Avery and Zephyr emerged from their access points. Avery came up behind the teller counter, immediately targeting the 2 operators guarding the hostages. The first went down before he registered her presence, a precision strike to the brachial plexus dropping him instantly. The second turned, raising his weapon, but Avery was already inside his defensive perimeter. A sweeping leg takedown followed by a restraining hold left him unconscious beside his colleague. Across the room, Zephyr emerged from the customer restroom and engaged the operators near the vault. Her movements were fluid, economical, targeting pressure points and nerve clusters with surgical precision. 2 operators down in seconds. Commander Vance reacted with professional speed, dropping the satellite phone and drawing his sidearm. But he had made a critical error in his tactical assessment. He had prepared for an assault team coming through the doors or windows, not for operators already inside his perimeter. "Secure the hostages," Avery ordered Detective Caldwell as she cut his restraints. To his credit, the detective moved immediately, shepherding the civilians toward the relative safety of the break room at the rear of the bank. Training or instinct, he understood the unfolding tactical situation and acted accordingly. Vance recognized Avery as she approached, a flicker of surprise crossing his features before his professional mask reasserted itself. "Thorne, should have known you'd be the one to come." "It's over, Vance," Avery stated, her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "Your team is down, the hostages are secure, and I never kept the encryption key in a safety deposit box." Vance's expression darkened. "Then where is it?" "Somewhere your employer will never find it. Not without my cooperation. The satellite phone on the floor crackled to life. Vance, report. What's happening? Avery recognized her father's voice instantly. She picked up the phone, maintaining eye contact with Vance as she spoke. Hello, Admiral. A moment of silence. Then, Avery, I should have known. Yes, you should have. You taught me everything I know about tactical assessment, including how to identify an opponent's blind spots. This isn't a game, Avery. This is a matter of national security. No, this is a matter of criminal conspiracy, illegal weapons sales, and now kidnapping and attempted murder of American civilians. How far you've fallen from the oath you once took. You don't understand the complexities. I understand perfectly, Avery cut him off. I saw the evidence with my own eyes. Meridian Defense shipping manifests for weapons delivered to terrorist organizations. Banking records showing millions transferred to offshore accounts. Your signature authorizing it all. Evidence that will never see the light of day without all 12 encryption keys, her father countered. And 3 of your former teammates are already dead. 4, actually, came a new voice from the bank entrance. Lieutenant Commander Hargrove stood with her sidearm drawn, aim not at Avery, but at Vance. Cipher, Annika Kaur, found dead in her apartment 2 days after the program was terminated, made to look like suicide. Winslow Kaur's sharp intake of breath was audible even across the room, where she stood just inside the entrance. The confirmation of her sister's fate hitting her like a physical blow. Hargrove, Admiral Thorne's voice held a note of warning. Remember your position, remember who signs your fitness reports. I remember my oath, Admiral, Hargrove replied, the one you seem to have forgotten. The standoff was interrupted by the sound of police tactical teams breaching the bank's secondary entrances. Within moments, the main floor was secured, Meridian operators taken into custody by FBI agents who had assumed jurisdiction. As Vance was led away in handcuffs, he leaned close to Avery. This isn't over. Your father has connections you can't imagine. It is over, Avery replied. For him and for Meridian. The truth is already out there. She gestured toward the front windows, where news cameras captured everything. Winslow Kaur stood beside one, narrating events as they unfolded. The journalist had done more than create a diversion. She had ensured the world was watching. But the most significant revelation came hours later, after the hostages had been safely evacuated and the bank secured. As Avery sat in an FBI debriefing room, Lieutenant Commander Hargrove entered with a secure laptop. There's someone who wants to speak with you, Hargrove said, opening the computer to reveal a video call in progress. On the screen was a face Avery had not seen in 3 years, weathered by time and stress, but still carrying the quiet authority that had commanded respect from everyone in Silent Tide. Commander Octavia Riker, codename Pharos. Looks like you've had an eventful day, Lieutenant, Riker said, a hint of pride in her voice. Commander, Avery acknowledged, instinctively straightening her posture. We thought you were off-grid. I was, until Hargrove found me 6 months ago. Riker's expression turned serious. She's been running a classified counter-operation tracking Meridian Defense and Admiral Thorne's illegal activities. When Silent Tide operators began dying in suspicious accidents, she accelerated the timeline. You knew we were being hunted, Avery stated, not a question. We suspected. But we needed proof of the connection between the deaths and Admiral Thorne. You and Zephyr provided that today. Riker leaned forward, her intensity unchanged by years away from command. Now, we need the encryption keys, all of them. It's time to finish what Silent Tide started. Avery hesitated, years of operational security making her cautious. How do I know this isn't another trap? Because I'm the one asking, came another voice, as the camera angle widened to reveal a second person beside Riker, an older woman with 3 stars on her uniform collar. Vice Admiral Helena Winters, Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence. Lieutenant Thorne, or whatever name you're using now, I'm hereby reactivating you under Classified Executive Order 13942. Silent Tide is back online, effective immediately. The formal reactivation of Silent Tide took place 2 weeks later in a secure facility outside Washington, D.C. Of the original 12 operators, 7 remained. Nomad, Dagger, Vortex, and Cipher had been eliminated. Storm had been killed in the original mission that uncovered the weapons sales conspiracy. but the 7 survivors stood together for the first time in 3 years, assembled before Vice Admiral Winters and a panel of senior military officials. As the highest-ranking survivor of the original team, Commander Riker presented their evidence. Each operator provided their portion of the encryption key, allowing the complete files to be accessed. The evidence was damning: detailed records of weapons sales to terrorist organizations, banking transactions linking Admiral Thorne and several other high-ranking officials to offshore accounts, communications planning the systematic elimination of Silent Tide operators to prevent the truth from emerging. These records have been authenticated by Naval Intelligence and the Department of Justice, Vice Admiral Winters announced to the assembled panel. Based on this evidence, Admiral Warwick Thorne has been taken into custody on charges of treason, conspiracy, illegal arms trafficking, and multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. For Avery, the formal acknowledgement brought not triumph, but a complex mixture of vindication and grief. Her father had betrayed not only his country, but the very principles he had instilled in her. The man who had taught her about duty and honor had abandoned both for power and profit. After the hearing, the Silent Tide operators gathered in a private room. No longer required to hide their identities or deny their service, they spoke openly for the first time in years. "What happens now?" asked Zephyr, the question on everyone's mind. Commander Riker addressed them with the same quiet authority that had guided them through the most dangerous operations. "That depends on each of you. Your military records have been reinstated, your service acknowledged, your benefits restored. Those who wish to return to active duty will be welcomed. Those who prefer to remain civilians will be honored for their sacrifice." Avery found herself uncertain of her path forward. For 3 years, she had lived as a ghost, carefully constructing an unremarkable life designed to attract no attention. The prospect of reclaiming her identity, her history, her purpose was both liberating and terrifying. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Lieutenant Commander Hargrove entered with Winslow Corps. "The journalist has something for you," Hargrove explained. Winslow approached the group with uncharacteristic hesitation. In her hands was a small wooden box. "This belonged to my sister, Annika, Cypher. I found it hidden in her apartment after she died. I didn't understand its significance until recently." She opened the box to reveal a collection of small items: a polished stone, a brass compass, a silver trident pin, and photographs. The women of Silent Tide in training, in rare moments of camaraderie, sisters in arms. "She never told me about her service," Winslow said, emotion thick in her voice. "But she kept these, treasured them. You were her family too." The simple gesture broke through the professional reserve that had defined their interactions. One by one, the survivors shared memories of Cypher, her brilliant mind, her dry humor, her unshakable loyalty. In remembering their fallen sister, they began to heal the wounds of their forced separation and the betrayal that had scattered them. Later that evening, Avery found herself alone with Commander Riker on the facility's observation deck. The night was clear, stars visible despite the distant glow of the capital. "Have you decided?" Riker asked without preamble. "Will you return to service?" Avery considered the question carefully. "I'm not sure I can be the person I was before." "No one is asking you to be," Riker replied. "We all change, we adapt, we evolve. The question is whether you still believe in the mission." "Which mission? The one that got us disbanded and hunted?" "The one that brought justice to those who betrayed their oaths," Riker corrected gently. "The one that protected innocent lives from weapons that would have been used against them. The mission hasn't changed, Avery. Only the circumstances." Avery thought of Pierce County Bank, of Eliana and Detective Caldwell, of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. "When does the formal recognition ceremony take place?" "Tomorrow at the Pentagon. The Secretary of the Navy will personally acknowledge Silent Tide and honor our fallen. It won't be public, of course. Some aspects of our operations remain classified, but it will be official." "And my father?" Riker's expression softened slightly. "He'll face military justice for his actions. I'm sorry, Avery. I know this isn't easy for you." "He made his choices," Avery said, surprised to find the words didn't hurt as much as she had expected. "As must we all." The next morning, in a private ceremony at the Pentagon, the women of Silent Tide stood at attention as their service was formally acknowledged. Each received the recognition that had been denied them for 3 years. Medals for actions both past and present were awarded. The fallen were honored posthumously, their names added to the classified memorial that recognized those who had given their lives in operations that officially never existed. Winslow Core sat in the back of the room, the only civilian permitted to witness the ceremony. As the official designated historian for Silent Tide, she would tell their story, preserving the truth while protecting operational security for her sister, for all of them. After the ceremony, Vice Admiral Winters approached Avery. "Lieutenant Thorne, a word." "Ma'am," Avery acknowledged, following the Admiral to a private office. "Your service record is exemplary," Winters began without preamble. "Your actions in the bank incident demonstrated not only your tactical abilities, but your commitment to protecting civilians even at risk to yourself. The Navy needs officers like you." "Thank you, ma'am." "Which is why I'm offering you a choice," Winters continued. "You can return to active duty with your proper rank and assignment, or you can accept an honorable discharge with full benefits and the freedom to build whatever life you choose." Avery had been considering this choice since the moment Silent Tide had been reactivated. 3 years of civilian life had changed her. The simple rhythms of ordinary days, the freedom from constant vigilance, the connections formed with people who knew nothing of her past. Eliana with her cheerful greetings, Dominic with his curious glances, Detective Caldwell with his tenacious pursuit of truth. "With respect, Admiral, I believe I can serve best by training the next generation," Avery said, "those who will carry forward what Silent Tide began." Winters nodded, a small smile suggesting she had anticipated this response. "I was hoping you'd say that. We're establishing a new integration program for naval special warfare, female operators training alongside their male counterparts. No more separate programs that can be disavowed, no more operators erased from history. And you want me to help lead this program. Who better than someone who has already proven it can be done?" 3 months later, Avery returned to Tacoma. The city felt different now. No longer a hiding place, but a home chosen freely. Her apartment was new, selected not for its defensive advantages, but for the morning light that filled the living room. Her identity was her own again, her service record restored, though much of it remained classified. She entered Pierce County Bank at precisely 11:42 on a Thursday morning. The interior had been renovated after the hostage situation, but the essential layout remained the same. A memorial plaque had been added near the entrance, honoring the silent guardians among us without naming names. Eliana was at her usual teller window, her smile widening in recognition as Avery approached. "Commander Thorne, welcome back." "Thank you, Eliana," Avery replied, still adjusting to being addressed by her rank in civilian settings. "Just making my weekly deposit." "Of course." Eliana processed the transaction with practiced efficiency, but her eyes held new understanding. "Will you be staying in Tacoma long-term?" "Yes," Avery confirmed. "I've accepted a position at Joint Base Lewis McChord, instructor for a new training program." "That's wonderful news." Eliana handed back the receipt. "It's good to have you back. The bank feels safer knowing you're a customer." As Avery turned to leave, she noticed a young woman waiting in line. Something in her posture, in the way her eyes tracked movement through the space, in her controlled awareness, struck a familiar chord. Their eyes met briefly, a moment of silent recognition passing between them. Avery nodded slightly. The young woman returned the gesture with equal subtlety. Outside, Avery paused to watch a news report playing on a storefront television. The anchor was discussing the latest developments in naval special operations. Breaking news: first female. Candidates begin training for newly established Naval Special Warfare Integration Program, marking a historic shift in special operations policy. While officials declined to comment on speculation that this follows the recently declassified acknowledgement of previous female operators, sources within the Pentagon confirmed that women have served in classified special operations roles for years. A small smile formed on Avery's face as she turned away, blending effortlessly into the flow of pedestrians. She was invisible now, by choice, not necessity. The skills that had made her an elite operator now applied to everyday life, holding doors for strangers, helping an elderly man with his groceries, noticing when someone needed assistance before they had to ask. In the distance, she could see the waters of Commencement Bay, where massive container ships moved with deceptive slowness across the horizon. Each carried thousands of tons of cargo to ports around the world. Each represented global connections, commerce, the movement of goods and ideas across borders. And each was inspected by a new generation of guardians, ensuring that what passed between nations brought prosperity, not destruction. Some of those guardians would train under her guidance. Some would never be known to the public they protected, but none would be forgotten or abandoned by the country they served. The trident tattoo on Avery's wrist, once hidden beneath long sleeves, now caught the afternoon sunlight as she walked, a symbol of the elite few who endured the most demanding training on Earth, a symbol no longer reserved for men alone. Silent service, quiet competence, exceptional strength hidden in ordinary appearance. These were not just the hallmarks of special operators, but of countless individuals who served others without recognition. The bank teller who noticed when a customer was in distress. The detective who pursued truth despite pressure to look away. The journalist who refused to let her sister's service be erased from history. Avery Thorne had found her place in both worlds, the seen and the unseen, the acknowledged and the silent. Not a ghost, but a guardian, present, visible, real. Have you ever discovered unexpected strength in yourself during a moment of crisis? Or recognized the quiet heroism in someone you previously overlooked? Share your story in the comments, and subscribe to explore more narratives about the extraordinary capabilities hidden within seemingly ordinary people around us every day.